Parts 1 through 3 built the case, the documented ground floor of human experimentation, the research program that engineered the body out of the equation, the cover story so elegant it runs itself. Part 4 is the close. We follow the money, we follow the contracts, we follow the people. From Nuremberg, 1946, to a one-page document signed by the United States Department of Justice in May 2026. 80 years, one unbroken thread. Let's finish it. Let's talk about what winning looks like. Not for you, not for the people watching this, for the people this episode has been documenting. Winning looks like this. You go to war. You tell the public it's about liberation, about stopping genocide, about the moral obligation of a free nation to defend human dignity. While that narrative runs, while the newsreels play, and the bonds get purchased, and the sons get drafted, you send a parallel operation into Germany to locate the scientists, secure the research, and get them out before the Soviets do. Operation Safe Haven, running alongside the liberation narrative, not instead of it, alongside it. The liberation was real. The Holocaust was real. The moral argument was real. And it was also a cover for the acquisition. Both things were true simultaneously. That's the architecture. One of the engineers who surrendered alongside von Braun recalled the calculation plainly. Quote, "We despise the French. We are morally afraid of the Soviets. We believe the British cannot afford us, so that leaves the Americans." End quote. Not ideology, not gratitude, not conversion. A business negotiation. The scientists knew what they were worth. They negotiated accordingly. The United States paid, not in dollars, not initially, but in immunity, in erased records, in new identities, in research facilities named after men whose previous facilities ran on prisoner labor. Awards, too. The Hubertus Strughold Award, established in 1962, presented every year from 1963 through 2012, nearly 5 decades, to outstanding contributors in space medicine research. 50 years of annual awards bearing the name of a man whose research program ran on concentration camp prisoners. The institution that wrote the Nuremberg Code and the institution that handed out the Strughold Award for 50 years are the same institution. That's not irony. That's policy. Lockheed, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Boeing Defense, NASA. Every major American aerospace and defense contractor that emerged from the post-war period was built, partially or substantially, on the research foundation Operation Paperclip imported. And every one of them was built on public money. Defense appropriations, black budgets, cost-plus contracts where the contractor bills the taxpayer for development costs and keeps the profit margin on top. The technology gets developed at public expense. The intellectual property belongs to the contractor. The public gets to buy the commercial version later, at retail. DARPA funded the foundational research for the internet. GPS, military program, taxpayer funded. Handed to commercial interests. The touchscreen interface, voice recognition, the semiconductor supply chain, foundational AI research, all of it developed with public money, all of it commercialized by private hands, all of it sold back. Tesla discovered principles of wireless energy transmission in the 1890s. Edison and Westinghouse built a metered utility model instead. A century later, you pay a monthly bill for electricity. The extraction model didn't start with paperclip. Paperclip just industrialized it. Silicon Valley is the current iteration of the same architecture. Elon Musk started Tesla with a $465 million federal loan guarantee. SpaceX, operating in the same rocket industry this episode documents from its Nazi-imported foundation, has received billions in NASA and Defense Department contracts. The company that builds the rockets is privately held. The contracts that fund the rockets are public. The wealth generated belongs to one person. And in 2024, that same person spent $290 million to elect the administration that would control those contracts. The largest individual political donation in American history outside of self-funded candidates, funneled through his own PAC, documented in FEC filings, hidden from nobody. They don't need to hide it anymore. The purchase of political access is legal. The contractor class buying the political class isn't corruption. It's the system working exactly as designed. $290 million in, billions in contracts out. DOGE access to federal spending data as a bonus. That's not a donation. That's an acquisition. Peter Thiel co-founded Palantir, a data mining and surveillance company built substantially on intelligence community contracts, taxpayer funded, operationally classified. Palantir recently secured a $795 million Army contract. Anduril Industries, also Thiel PAC, secured a $100 billion Pentagon contract for autonomous weapons systems. Public money, private hands. The contractor class collecting on both ends. And then Thiel spent a decade making sure the people controlling those contracts stayed in power. 2016, $1.25 million to elect Donald Trump, one of the only Silicon Valley figures to back him publicly, spoke at the Republican National Convention. 2022, $15 million to a super PAC backing J.D. Vance in Ohio. $20 million to a super PAC backing Blake Masters in Arizona. $35 million in total. 10th largest individual donor of the entire cycle. 2025, after sitting out 2024, Thiel returned $852,200 to grow the majority, joint fundraising committee connected to House Speaker Mike Johnson, distributed to the RNC, the NRCC, state parties, and nearly 30 House Republicans in competitive districts. That pattern isn't ideological, it's structural. Thiel isn't buying candidates. He's buying the committee that controls the contracts that fund his companies. J.D. Vance, Thiel's $15 million investment in 2022, is now Vice President of the United States. The return on that investment doesn't get reported in FEC filings. And then, Peter Thiel moves to Argentina. Not permanently, temporarily, with his family. A $12 million mansion in Buenos Aires. His children enrolled in local schools. Regular meetings with President Javier Milei. The stated reasons? Tax avoidance. A Southern Hemisphere refuge. Concerns about nuclear war and AI trajectory. While maintaining billions in active Pentagon contracts. While continuing to finance the political apparatus that awards those contracts. Extracting from the public apparatus, financing the people who run it, relocating to avoid funding it. Argentina, the same country that sheltered Klaus Barbie, Joseph Mengele, out of Eichmann. The documented rat line destination for the people the Nuremberg trials were supposed to have finished. The scientists who didn't flee in 1945 got recruited to build the apparatus. The apparatus produced the contractor class. The contractor class bought the political class, and one of them just moved to Argentina. And while that was happening, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump secured development rights to Sazan Island in Albania, 1,400 hectares, a former Soviet submarine base, a Cold War chemical weapons facility, closed to the public until 2017. Now slated for 10,000 hotel rooms and luxury villas. abandoned bunkers and underground tunnels incorporated into the design aesthetic. $1.4 billion in projected development for a private self-sustaining resort island for the elite, and likely a retirement villa for some. Albania government permits fast-tracked while the father-in-law occupied the White House. A corruption inquiry opened by Albanian prosecutors. Thousands of local citizens in the streets. The Cold War built that island on public terror and public money. Soviet and American both. The political class is now monetizing the real estate. And while the contractor class was buying the political class was buying something else entirely. May 2026, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche signed a one-page addendum to a settlement agreement. One page. The language. The United States is forever barred and precluded from conducting examinations or pursuing past tax claims for any returns filed by Donald Trump, his family members, trusts, and affiliated businesses. Forever. The same government that writes the tax code. The same government that enforces the tax code. The same government the rest of us fund through the tax code. Permanently exempted the people at the top of it. Not through legislation, not through a vote, through a one-page addendum, quietly attached to a broader settlement, signed by a man the president appointed. They prosecuted Nazi doctors at Nuremberg for conducting experiments on unconsenting human subjects, and then recruited the researchers. They wrote the Nuremberg Code, and then ran the programs anyway. They wrote the tax code, and then permanently exempted themselves from it. Same architecture, different document, one page, and a pen. Here's the thread, start to finish. The Nazis ran the experiments. The Americans prosecuted the experimenters and recruited them in the same 12-month window. The recruits built the aerospace complex on public money. The aerospace complex mapped where the body breaks. The classified programs engineered past the body entirely. The non-human biologics are what the engineering produced. The alien narrative is what keeps you from knowing it. The aerospace complex produced the contractor class. The contractor class handed the technology to Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley sold it back to the public that funded it. The contractor class bought the political class with the profits. The political class permanently exempted itself from accountability. And the people who extracted the most, one of them is in Argentina. One of them is building a luxury resort on a Cold War weapons site. One of them bought the presidency for $290 million and called it a donation. And one of them signed a one-page document that put himself above the law. And the rest of us went to work today to pay for all of it. Same game, different century. Same country. That's episode 7. The full episode, all 4 acts, is on Substack and First Light Archive. Episode 8 is coming. Controlled Disclosure. The final chapter of the cover story. 2017 to present. The Managed Drip. Congressional Theater. Why the current disclosure campaign may be the last operation of the narrative managers, not the beginning of truth. The truth they hid wasn't alien. It was human. It was always human.